Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to PyCascades 2022. We are really excited to have you in PyCascades 2022. We have our first talk by Thursday Bram, and the topic of the talk is supporting the George Floyd protest in Portland, demonstration, legal support, and Django apps. Portland's protest following the murder of George Floyd involved thousands of people providing bail and legal support to those arrested at the protests, required a massive amount of volunteers, resources, and incredibly hard-working Django app. Before we dive deep into our first talk of the day, I just want to take a moment and talk more about our speaker. Thursday Bram is a writer based in Portland, Oregon. Thursday is the author of the Python style supplement and co-author of our Python, a volume of Pythonic art. You can find Thursday on Twitter by searching ThursdayB, all lowercase.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Good morning. I'm Thursday Bram, and I'm here to talk about my experiences doing bail and legal support for protesters who were arrested in Portland in 2020 and 2021 during the George Floyd uprising. Since I'm white and I'm talking about supporting people arrested while asking for racial justice, I do need to say that I'm only talking about the specific project that I worked on. I didn't organize or lead protests or anything like that. Please consider this a report back on the small chunk of mutual aid that I worked on and nothing more. Furthermore, I did not do this work alone. This talk covers the efforts of dozens of people who I am proud to work alongside. This talk goes over technical topics, but it also includes discussions of institutionalized racism and police violence. If you're not in a place where you can hear about these topics, please consider stepping away for the moment. You can always watch the recording later. On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd went into a grocery store in Minneapolis and made a purchase. 31 minutes later, he was dead at the hands of a police officer. On May 26th, hundreds of protesters took to the streets in Minneapolis, demanding accountability for Floyd's death and for the deaths of a long list of other Black people at the hands of police officers. On May 27th, a small group of Black and Indigenous women gathered in Portland at the Multnomah County Justice Center to hold space in memory of George Floyd. On May 28th, around 100 people gathered at the same building, with some people sitting in the doorways. Riot police violently pushed people away from the building. On May 29th, over 1,000 people gathered in North Portland and marched into downtown to the Justice Center. Portland police officers arrested 13 people. The Portland General Defense Committee immediately started posting bail for protesters who were arrested. The GDC started as a legal defense organization for union organizers and workers in 1917. The Portland branch started in 2017 and has provided jail and legal support to protesters since its start. We did the same thing for folks arrested on May 29th that we did for past protests. We made a spreadsheet of people arrested and started figuring out who needed bail money. Dealing with 13 arrests at once was a stretch for us. At that point, we were used to 2 or 3 arrests at one event and supporting maybe 2 people with ongoing cases at any given time. We were able to pull together bail funds from members and friends, but we knew we would need to raise money to cover legal costs and to reduce the bail burden we'd already taken on. Prior to 2020, the GDC had a budget of a few $1,000s per year. I put up a GoFundMe early on May 30th. By the end of that day, police had arrested 64 people. Protests continued every night into January 2021. I've heard estimates that 70,000 people participated in Portland over those 8 months. Portland still sees several protests and rallies around racial justice every month. Local police and federal law enforcement agents made over 1,000 arrests at protests here. They also beat, tear gassed, and otherwise hurt countless protesters and journalists. As you can guess, gathering and managing information on who had been arrested, who needed bail money, and where each person was in the legal process quickly outgrew a single spreadsheet. On June 6th, 2020, I contacted Jamie Sharp, who I knew from various tech-related things here in Portland, and I asked for his help. I was deep in the weeds at that point, and basically gave Jamie free rein to figure out how to replace this terrible spreadsheet with something that could manage information better. We were not in a position to pay Jamie, and I am eternally grateful he was able to help us. The GDC still has minimal resources beyond dedicated volunteers and some funds earmarked for legal expenses. While we eventually raised over $1 million, that money is all for bail and legal costs, and therefore not available for administrative costs like building software applications. One of the reasons I reached out to Jamie is because of his experience scraping all kinds of websites. He was unable to speak at this event, but I encourage you to check out his project Comic Rocket at comic-rocket.com, which is one of the places he got that experience. I figured Jamie would be able to automate some of our information gathering, letting volunteers focus on things technology can't do. Jamie's experience meant that he had the first working iteration of our app up and running by June 12th, with all of the notes in our terrible spreadsheet imported and ready for us to work on. As the summer of 2020 wore on, we added users and functionality and scaled up a little just about every day. The GDC's workflow constantly changed based on capacity and the growing number of arrests. This was not a situation where a developer got to make nice, neat little upgrades and slowly roll them out to users. This was duct taping steering to an airplane that was already in flight and occasionally doing barrel rolls. The web app we use for the Portland GDC's work can be thought of in two key pieces. Most users only ever see an interface to a database, listing people who were arrested with a bunch of fields about their contact information, the status of their court case, and other various details. For those users, it's an amped-up, search-friendly spreadsheet. But the app also pulls in information from several sources, automatically pre-populating many of those fields and providing updates to volunteers. Those sources don't have APIs, so the app scrapes them. They include the Oregon State Court Records website. They also include jail records from the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. MCSO is responsible for processing anyone arrested on state charges and many of those arrested on federal charges within Multnomah County, which includes most of the city of Portland. The information we need to do our work comes in an absurd variety of formats with an equally absurd set of access requirements. For instance, a lot of court information is in PDFs that are scans of printed documents, often with important notes like dropped to indicate a suspended charge, handwritten on the paper copy. Federal courts work differently than state courts and have less information that can be scraped easily. Federal court cases go through Pacer, which is an app that charges 10 cents per page when you access a document, as well as fees for search results and for non-case specific reports. 18F, the federal government's in-house technical consultancy, has looked at upgrading the system, but their report is best summarized as, no one knows how Pacer works, no one knows how to maintain Pacer, and we really just need something entirely new built from scratch. Important information also disappears regularly. MCSO's arrest information will change with no warning and no record if someone at the jail updates that information, including during the booking process. Records of arrests drop off the site entirely after a few weeks. There's also no listing of citations, those incidents where protesters are charged with a crime, usually a misdemeanor, but not arrested. And the information available is almost always full of errors. Information collected during arrests is particularly bad. We've known for a long time that law enforcement agents will tweak certain information they collect in order to make their own stats look better. But the data we saw from protests made those changes much more obvious. Police record the races of people arrested incorrectly constantly. In particular, we've seen glaring errors around the race of people of color, which have allowed the Portland Police Bureau and other agencies to claim that almost all protesters arrested in Portland are white. We've also seen names, genders, physical descriptions, and more recorded incorrectly. We've had to figure out the meanings of certain data through trial and error because there's no documentation available. MCSO uses different terms and definitions for specific charges than the Oregon court system uses, to the point where now our app only grabs the statute number a person is charged under and then maps it to correct charge information in our database. This system is especially infuriating when you realize that it's on the people who are arrested to correct any errors. Since errors can have consequences that include being kept in jail, they can be impossible to correct without expert legal help. People who are arrested are also expected to stay up to date on their cases without any of the modern notification systems you might expect. If someone's charges are suspended, that person is instructed to call the district attorney's office at least monthly to check if their charges have been reinstated for at least the next 2 years. If they don't, they'll likely miss a court date, which will result in a warrant being issued for their arrest, along with other terrible outcomes. COVID has also meant that policies change constantly, often without online notice. Even before the pandemic, details around court hearings routinely changed on the day of. But as more things moved online, everything about legal processes got more complicated. These websites are also delicate. Some were constructed by contractors trying to keep costs down, while others are built by companies that know that they can take advantage of people who are incarcerated without anyone important caring. Django and Python were the logical choices for this project for a few reasons. First, Jamie had already built Django apps and was pretty familiar with the framework. And while I haven't built a whole Django app by myself, I've gone through a few workshops. Second, Django's built-in admin interface makes managing a bunch of structured data really easy. The user interface enables anyone to edit that data without tons of training. Jamie was also already familiar with Scrapy, a Python scraping framework, so he could get that set up with a Django-based app quickly. One of the pieces of information we need to grab automatically are upcoming court dates. The Oregon court calendar site is particularly irksome. Jamie jumped through a lot of programmatic hoops to get that scraper up and running. The site limits search results to 550 rows without offering a next page button. The scraper can't just grab all calendar entries over the next 3 months without hammering the site harder than we want to. So the solution is a little complicated. The scraper looks at the specific case numbers we care about, then groups all the cases with the same starting numbers, trimming off the last 2 digits. When the court calendar is queried with those truncated group numbers, there are a max of 100 active cases returned. By batching together cases, the scraper minimizes the number of queries. though Jamie has pointed out that if whoever designed the court calendar site had just limited search results to 1,000 rows instead of 550, he could have cut the number of queries even further. Of course, there's still plenty of work that requires a human touch. We have to audit our data regularly, adding in pieces that MCSO missed or that come from conversations with the protesters we're supporting. Django has made those audits relatively simple, even though they still require a lot of reading through information. We can use tags for indicating the specific categories that need auditing at a given time, as well as sort and filter information in a variety of ways. The GDC is not a large organization even now. We're also not an especially technical group. We recruited volunteers to work on legal support starting in July and August of 2020, and a few more volunteers have joined since then. In preparing this talk, I asked folks who use the app regularly what technical knowledge they had before volunteering with the GDC. The range was even wider than I expected. One of our most technical volunteers beyond Jamie and myself came in knowing some JavaScript and could use the command line. But we also had folks with very little technical expertise, who might use Google Docs or email, but not much else. With some onboarding and documentation, they were all able to make use of the app, as well as suggest improvements that would make our work easier. All onboarding, and all other work for that matter, happens remotely. Django's user interface is reasonably simple right out of the box, and while we've tweaked the user experience slightly, Django uses a visual language in its interfaces that is very similar to what's considered standard on the internet. I created our technical onboarding process. Another person was responsible for walking new folks through specific support situations, communication norms, and our policies, so I was able to focus just on getting people onto the app. I do a video call with each new user that includes a 30-minute walkthrough. We actually don't always need the full 30 minutes, but we set up user accounts during that session, and getting folks through their first time logging in is often hard, to the point that it's probably the thing that our users struggle with the most. That's because some of our account setup emails wind up in spam. So I built in time to search around for emails. I also limited onboarding sessions to a max of 3 new users at a time because I only have enough patience to go through 3 people's spam folders at a time. During the walkthrough session, we go through each section of the app as well as our documentation. Our documentation is a shared Google Doc with screenshots and written descriptions. It's not fancy, but it does contain answers to basically every question anyone has asked me about the app. We tweaked the app as users asked questions and needed more features. Jamie wisely pushed back every so often and reminded us of our options, even deleting certain features when they were no longer needed. If Jamie hadn't provided a technical voice of reason, we'd probably have a full-featured CRM at this point, even though that's not what we need. And when I checked in with our users for this talk, they told me that the app was intuitive, friendly, hard to break, and empowering. Users felt empowered to work with this data, even if they didn't come in knowing tech, legal issues, or activism. Some features still don't get used as much as possible. But volunteers say this is more about the time available to do work, not due to difficulties with the app. People also like that they don't feel beholden to the app and that it's not judgmental about unfilled fields. One person even said that using the app reminds them of using a message board because they can see the notes and work of other volunteers, which helps them stay connected through all this remote work. We realized early on that we were sitting on a pile of valuable information. While most of what we pulled together was publicly available, it wasn't combined in this way anywhere else. Between what we scrape and the information we add from people we're supporting, we've created a doxer's paradise. Not only do we have data like physical addresses and phone numbers, but we also have notes on who needs what kinds of help. The risks of holding this information are massive. If someone with bad intentions got access, they'd be able to easily harass people both online and off. We have an ethical obligation to mitigate every risk we can and to protect this information. The alternative is compounding the harm legal systems are already doing to folks. We also face a lesser risk of losing access to the sources where we pull information from. That has happened several times. Not only does MCSO remove information from their arrest records, but the Oregon court system stopped allowing access by anything with an IP address located outside the US, which coincidentally included us at the time. Jamie found us workarounds, but I'm always waiting for the next time one of these systems changes their access controls. We also faced concerted attacks on any tool we publicly use. We dealt with numerous malicious reports to GoFundMe, Twitter, our email provider, and more. We've reduced our risks in several ways. First, we obviously don't go around telling people about what information we have in the app. After all, if someone is attacking your email, they'll attack every other system they can find related to your organization. We're facing less attention now online, so talking about the app here is a calculated risk that we're comfortable with. But I'm still not telling you who hosts the app, exactly what information we have inside the app, or other important details to keep our risks to a minimum. We also look closely at everyone who gets access to the app. Our due diligence process for volunteers includes an in-depth internet background search and confirmation of information we find with shared connections where possible. Jamie was also able to set up multiple types of user accounts so that we could limit each volunteer's access to information they actually need to do their work. If, for instance, someone is writing letters of support to people who are currently incarcerated, they can only see those people in the system who they're writing to. Those volunteers don't get much more than an address and some biographical information. Technical security is, of course, an aspect of risk mitigation. Django has good security features out of the box, assuming you use them. We do, and we also use Django's documentation that we've adapted to explain what's going on behind the scenes to our volunteers so that they better understand the technology. But the most important step to managing our security concerns was our effort to avoid collecting information that we didn't feel that we could protect. And that policy would have been the same no matter what framework or language the app was written in. No technology choice is as important as defining what data you'll collect and how it will be handled. One of our biggest issues, and it's an ongoing issue, is burnout. Basically, everyone burnt out over the course of 2020 and 2021. Doing legal support just made us burn out faster. We've had higher turnover among volunteers than I'd like, but this is hard work. Even though we don't need to worry too much about gathering and processing data, we're still dealing with emotional situations. Even the best outcomes for the people we're working with involve lots of time dealing with an adversarial legal system. The only way to handle the fluctuations in capacity is to document everything. Everything that happens in an individual case gets recorded in the app. Everything about the app gets documented too. Our documentation isn't fancy. I've already talked about how it's just a document. And we've lifted a few pieces of Django documentation and adapted them as well. But a lot of the value comes from questions that we've answered from users. And anytime an edge case came up, I took tons of notes. I did worry a lot about what would happen when Jamie and I burned out, however. We both managed to hang on until the app was stable and there hadn't been any new features needed in a while. I did want to make sure that someone had enough knowledge to at least decide if a situation was an emergency, and to hopefully have someone who could step up if such an emergency came to pass. Luckily, our most technical volunteers reached a point with the app where they seemed capable of handling peer questions, and I managed to draft a backup developer who would be willing to handle emergencies before I had to take a break. I think the work I've done with the Portland GDC over the past 2 years is some of the most important work I have done or will do. We put together legal support for hundreds of protesters out of Django, duct tape, and donations from strangers. We did our part to ensure that protesters could be in the streets for months on end and reduce the risks they faced. One of the most meaningful measures of our work, at least for me, is that Rodney Floyd, George Floyd's brother, thanked Portland protesters specifically last April. He said that the support of protesters meant so much to their family, and that staying in the streets helped ensure his brother's killers faced justice. So here's where everything stands as of February 2022. Mike Schmidt, the district attorney here, suspended most protest-related charges. That's not the same thing as dropping charges entirely. Instead of dropping charges, he's just not currently prosecuting charges. The DA has the option to reinstate suspended charges for years to come, and he's already reinstated a few. By suspending charges, the state also gets to hold on to bail money and evidence until the charges age out. That means that the almost $700,000 the GDC raised for bail, that went to bail, is unavailable for legal fees or for bail for future protests for an indeterminate amount of time. Schmidt is considered a very progressive DA, and he's still chosen to hold protest-related charges over protesters' heads for years to come. The federal district attorney, Scott Asfug, hasn't been so nice. Several protesters are facing federal charges, with Black and Indigenous folks facing the harshest penalties. There are at least 3 such cases which will be going to court in the next few weeks, with each defendant facing years in jail. The city of Portland, as well as several federal agencies, are facing lawsuits from many of the protesters who police attacked. Residents of Portland who were not involved with protests but were tear-gassed or otherwise harmed are also bringing their own lawsuits. While a few cases have already been settled with payouts by the relevant government agency, many seem to be going to court. While Portlanders are no longer protesting in the streets every night, cases related to the George Floyd uprising won't be over for months, perhaps even longer. The GDC is still doing legal support and expects to be doing prison support for folks unjustly incarcerated over these protests for years to come. I hope you found this talk valuable, both in terms of learning about launching a Django app with minimal resources and even less time, and in terms of understanding the amount of work it takes to support protesters through arrests and court cases. The GDC continues to support people arrested, and if you're able to, please consider donating to help cover the legal costs that many protesters still face. If you have any questions about this talk after the conference, the easiest way to contact me is through Twitter, where I'm at ThursdayB.
Thank you, Thursday, for this amazing talk and taking the time to teach us about supporting the George Floyd protest in Portland, demonstration, legal support, and Django apps. The next talk will be Python Tales of Concurrency with Padawan Bisht. We have 15-minute break, so we hope to see you back here at 11:05 a.m. Also, don't forget to check out the booths. Microsoft and PyLadies have amazing booths. Each have a virtual booth right here in Venue West. Lastly, don't forget to share us on social media and tag us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is PyCascades, all lowercase, and definitely check out our photo booth at photobooth.pycascades.com.